I was sitting here bored the other day, just scrolling through stuff online, and I stumbled onto something that kind of blew my mind. Have you ever stopped to think about where all the people in the world actually go to work every morning? Not just the office buildings in your city, but globally. I mean, we always hear about big companies, right? Apple, Google, whatever. But I wanted to know which companies, specifically private companies, so not the government or the post office, actually have the most human beings on their payroll. Like, if you lined up all the employees of one company, would they fill up a stadium or a whole city? So I started digging into data from way back in the 70s, all the way up to like next year. And honestly, the list changed so much over time. It's not just the same old names. It tells you a lot about how we've changed as a society, From building cars to shipping boxes of dog food to your front door in 2 days. Okay, so let's talk about the elephant in the room. Or, I guess, the big box store in the room, Walmart. If you look back at the 70s, they were basically nobody. I mean, in 1975, they had maybe a couple thousand employees, if that. It was just a few stores in the South. But then, man, they just exploded. By the 90s, they were everywhere. And by the 2000s, they weren't just a store anymore. They were basically a country. At their peak, they had over 2.3 million people working for them. To put that in perspective, that's more people than the entire population of a place like Paris, living in the city, working for the smiley face. It's kind of crazy to think about when you're just grabbing a gallon of milk, right? But here's the funny thing. There's another giant that technically employs a ton of people, and you probably eat there once a week, McDonald's. Their numbers are a little tricky though, because they count everyone who works at a McDonald's, even if it's a franchise. So while Walmart pays their people directly, Mickey D's numbers are inflated by all those teenagers flipping burgers. Still, seeing them hover around the 2 million mark is wild. It really makes you realize we're a society that loves convenience. You know how every year you gotta buy the new iPhone? Well, Foxconn is the place that actually puts them together. They're this massive Taiwanese company that basically built these giant, almost futuristic cities in China just for workers. In the early 2000s, they had nothing, zero. And then within like 10 years, boom, over 1 million people. Can you imagine managing 1 million employees? I can barely manage my email inbox. It really shows how manufacturing just shifted completely. Back in the 70s, if you wanted a job, you went to work for a car company like General Motors. They had almost 900,000 people at one point. My grandpa actually worked for GM back in the day. But now, those jobs are gone, and they've been replaced by these tech manufacturing hubs. And speaking of tech, let's talk about Amazon. They basically did what Walmart did, but on the internet and at warp speed. They went from a handful of people in a garage to over 1.5 million employees in just a couple of decades. I swear, every time I turn around, there's another Amazon warehouse being built on the edge of town. There's this company called Compass Group. I had no idea who they were until I looked this up. They're the ones running the cafeteria at your kid's school, or the food court at that office building downtown. They've got like 500,000 just making sandwiches and serving coffee. It's not glamorous, but it's steady work. And then you have the oil companies, Exxon, Shell, Total. These guys used to be massive back in the day. In the 70s and 80s, they were kings. But over the years, they've slowly shrunk. They don't need as many people to pull oil out of the ground anymore because machines do it. It's the same with the phone company, AT&T. Before they got broken up in the 80s, they were basically the only phone game in town and had almost 1 million people. Now, they're a fraction of that. Telegram viewers, the code is TAE15230.